Steelers OTAs are over. Mandatory minicamps next week. But let's break down which players played well during OTAs and which guys maybe disappointed a little bit for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I got my list of 12 winners and 6 losers from Steelers OTAs this year. So I'm going to be breaking that down here in just a second. And like I said, guys, next week is Steelers mandatory minicamp, all right? This is when everybody's going to be there. Everybody's going to be getting these installs done and really getting things geared up for Steelers training camp upcoming this summer. So I'm going to be putting out more content on social media, a bunch of clips from mandatory minicamp. We're going to get more of the 7-on-7s and 11-on-11 team, drills and all this different stuff that they're going to be doing. So if you want to see those clips, you want to get that extra content from me on X, go up to @Jack_Sperry. And if you want more general NFL content from me on IG, you can go to @SpareDog.football. Now, an important note here before we get into today's show. I try to be pretty wary of buying into OTA hype right now because if you listen to all the hype surrounding all 32 NFL teams, every quarterback is dropping dimes. There's always players that get super hyped up this time of year and they end up being nothing during the regular season. So you have to be wary about buying into the hype at this point in the season, especially because the physical element of the game is not present, right? It's pretty much all in shorts. There's no pads on. It's not real football. Okay, so it's something to keep in mind here when you hear about hype from some of these players. So we'll get into that here in just a little bit. And we're going to really learn more about these guys in training camp, especially the offensive linemen, the defensive linemen. We're not really going to know if Troy Fautanu is ready until training camp. We're not going to know if Zach Frazier's ready to start right away until training camp. We're not going to know how the guys on the defensive line are really looking until training camp. So especially along the trenches, it's hard to tell which guys are really doing well and which guys aren't. So first up here, let's start with the winners because it is a longer list. I think that it's been more positive than negative at Steelers OTAs to this point in time. So let's start with Russell Wilson, who is my first winner. He looks extremely sharp. He looks in control of the offense, even though this is his first year in Arthur Smith's scheme. And when you watch him throw the football, it's extremely tight, okay? And what I mean by that is it comes out quickly, and then the ball, it's just a perfect spiral, easy to catch, and it's just really sharp out there for him, man. He looks in complete control, not only of the offense, but also the locker room. There's no doubt about it. This guy is the veteran, former superstar of this offense here, and you can definitely sense that the people in the locker room are gravitating around Russell Wilson as we approach the 2024 season. So let me know down there in the comments section, what's the % chance that Russell Wilson wins Comeback Player of the Year this year? A lot of people are doubting Russ right now. If he has an excellent season, I would put the chances relatively high that he ends up winning Comeback Player of the Year. But let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Put it on a scale of 0 to 100 for me for today's pinned comment. YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, take advantage of that time by answering today's pinned question. Then we get from one R. Wilson to another R. Wilson here in Roman Wilson, the rookie receiver out of Michigan, who has looked fantastic to this point in OTAs. Now, again, the pads have not come on, but I think that Rome is somebody that's going to look potentially even better when the pads come on because he loves the physical aspect of the game and his athleticism, his ability to make acrobatic catches, and his ability to make catches with his hands and not bring it into his body like some guys, especially coming out of college, have an issue with. You can see with this drill right here, it forces them to jump up extremely high and then catch the ball with their hands instead of with their body. It's a nice drill for red zone work, and Rome was just absolutely flying just sky high. Being somebody that's less than 6 foot tall, he was jumping higher than some of the other bigger receivers in this room, and it really looks like he's going to be a baller. He's a very impressive route runner. Like I said, he's got very secure hands, and I think, the Steelers scout wide receiver talent better than just about anybody in football, and I think they found a great one here in Roman Wilson. Another wide receiver that has impressed is Calvin Austin III. He had the final touchdown of the Steelers season last year in the playoffs against the Buffalo Bills, and I think that the Steelers view him as somebody that can be a really good gadget player and then a good deep threat on later downs, obvious passing situations. I really think that the Steelers view Calvin Austin III as somebody that's going to be a good piece, like a fourth or a fifth receiver. There's rumors that he might get cut, but I really don't think that's going to happen. I think they view him as an excellent punt returner, and then also somebody that can help out on the later downs as a passing threat. Then we get to Quez Watkins here, who it seems like every single year in Philly, all the rumors were abuzz that Quez Watkins was like the best receiver on their team, consistently making big plays, and once again, he is an OTA demon, okay? He has an excellent connection with Russell Wilson, especially on the deep ball to this point, but you have to be wary about this OTA hype, specifically around this player, because this is somebody that's impressed in OTAs and in training camp before, and then he gets to the season, and he's not nearly as good as advertised, all right? So be careful with the Quez Watkins hype that you see out there. I certainly hope that he's as good as advertised, and he's playing in the season as well as he did during OTAs in the team period so far, but I'm definitely cautiously optimistic when it comes to Quez Watkins heading into this season. Then we get to the tight ends here, and Pat Freiermuth has been absolutely fantastic, and his role in this Arthur Smith offense, it's going to be a very featured role. He's going to be playing a little bit of slot wide receiver. He's going to be, of course, be playing inline tight end as well. And, something that's definitely apparent is the connection that Muth already has with Russell Wilson. And he's going to be a straight up problem for opposing defenses this year because he's one of the best receiving talents at the tight end position, one of the best true route runners at the position, being his size, his ability to move and accelerate and break out of his cuts. It's really, really rare. And yes, he's not the best blocker in the world. He is an absolute menace as a receiving threat, and I think he's absolutely going to have a breakout season here in 2024 with Russell Wilson throwing him the football. Then we get to Darnell Washington, another tight end here. And when it comes to the run game, we know how much the Steelers are going to want to run the football here in 2024. And I really do think Darnell Washington is going to be a major X factor in the success of this run game. Of course, you have Najee Harris and Jalen Warren, and that's a really good combo. And then the offensive line is young, but much improved in terms of talent. And then if you can add essentially a sixth offensive lineman here in Darnell Washington, who is a freak of nature with how big and strong and fast he is, you're going to be able to do some very interesting things in terms of run blocking that essentially gives you a numbers advantage in the blocking game, essentially putting a sixth offensive lineman on the field. So I really believe in Darnell Washington. He's looked extremely powerful in these drills and in the skill work. I'm not sure if he's much of a receiving threat, but as a blocker, I think he could be the X factor to the Steelers' run game this year. Now, coming up here on Steelers Talk, more OTA winners and 6 losers coming up later in today's show. But before we get into that, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Fanatics. Go to chatsports.com/Russ to get a brand new Russell Wilson Steelers jersey in your closet today. I'm telling you guys right now, Russ is looking sharp in OTAs. Hopefully he can continue that positive momentum, bring that into mandatory minicamp, and of course into training camp, into the preseason, and then into the regular season. If you're a believer in Russell Wilson like I am, and you want to help support the channel, go to chatsports.com/Russ. I'll put that link in the comments and description of today's show. And if you click that link and you make a purchase, Fanatics is going to send us part of the proceeds, so really do appreciate your support. Make sure you go to chatsports.com/Russ and get your Russell Wilson jersey today. Finishing up the offensive players here on my winners list, Mason McCormick, the interior offensive lineman, 4th-round pick for the Steelers this year, and he's the only offensive lineman I'm putting on this list because, like I said, haven't been able to put the pads on yet, so it's hard to really judge an offensive lineman and how ready they are for the league based on OTAs and the skill work that they've been doing at practices, but he looks really freaking good, man. Like the power that this guy's able to bring to the table, I mean, it's superhuman. I mean, you watch this guy dominate his competition in college there at South Dakota State, and people are like, man, yeah, you can dominate those guys, but the NFL's a different beast, and it is, but you can tell that this guy's mauling strength that he brings to the table is legit, even at the NFL level, and he's making, multi-year NFL pro guards look weak compared to him in these drills, man. Like, this guy is blowing up every single drill that he does. He does it with 100% effort and energy, and I think he's probably been the most impressive rookie offensive lineman on the Steelers in practices so far. Then we get to Darius Rush, the cornerback second-year player. They traded for him last year, didn't really see the field all that much, but you're really hoping that Darius Rush or Corey Trice Jr., one of those kind of high upside, kind of developmental type corners, are able to really get the job done for you and really ascend into maybe even a starting type role by the end of the year. And Darius Rush is the guy that's impressed more than Corey Trice Jr. Now, we'll talk about Trice Jr. later in today's show. He hasn't been fully healthy. Rush is, so that obviously gives him an advantage. But I really do think Darius Rush has been impressive, and he looks like somebody where if Joey Porter Jr. or Dante Jackson, God forbid, goes down with an injury, like you can trust Darius Rush on the field, and he's been making plays in the team periods to this point. Then we get to Cam Sutton here, and of course he's a big winner because, nobody in the NFL wanted him. And the Steelers said, you know what, we're going to take a chance, bring him back here to Pittsburgh to play that slot cornerback role. They were very light on slot cornerback help before they brought him in. So obviously him getting another opportunity to play in this league and as a starter is definitely a big opportunity for him. And I do think he's going to take that opportunity and run with it. I think he'll be one of the better slot corners in football this year, and he really completes the Steelers defense. Then we get to the linebacking room. I thought Patrick Queen was everything as advertised. He was an all-pro linebacker last year with Baltimore, and man, that really showed up. He's wearing that number 6. He looks like an absolute demon. He's running around using that athleticism. I think he's probably going to compete for another all-pro season here in 2024. Then we get to Peyton Wilson here, the other linebacker, or the other rookie here that they kind of got at a steal. At the end of round 3, they get a guy that I had a round 1 grade on. He's excellent in coverage, and man, he has been super, super impressive in OTAs. Like, for linebackers, a really hard position, guys, and that's something that people need to understand. It's not easy to pick up all the different roles that these guys have to take on. And if Peyton Wilson stays healthy, what I have to say about him, guys, is that if he stays healthy, and he's been healthy the last 2 seasons at NC State, he's going to be a stud. He's going to be a borderline star player on the Steelers defense. He's probably going to be a future green dot here. He looks like a leader. He looks like an absolute menace in the middle of the defense, and he looks like a game-changing linebacker for the next decade, again, if he can stay healthy. Then we get to another player that I think is going to absolutely dominate in the middle of the defense for Pittsburgh this year, and that is Keanu Benton, second-round pick from last year, who had really showed a lot of great things. He played on a limited snap count, but this year he's really embracing that full-time starting role at nose tackle, and he moves like a superstar defensive tackle. Now, like I said, the pads haven't been on yet. It's not really 100% for sure what these guys can do, but you watch these guys go through the drills, and Keanu Benton looks different. At 310 pounds, this guy moves like a running back. It is absolutely unbelievable, the agility and the acceleration and the power he plays with. He really showed a lot of flashes last year, and in a full-time starting role this year, I think he has a breakout season with the black and gold on defense, and I can't wait to see it unfold. Now, let me know, who's going to have the better season? Do you think Cam Hayward is still the king of the hill on the defensive interior here in Pittsburgh, type CH, or do you think Keanu Benton, the new kid on the block, is going to be more productive than Cam Hayward? Let me know. Type KB down there if you think Benton's going to take over. So now, let's get on to the losers here, and I don't like talking about the losers, guys. I really don't, because I like to be positive. I like to talk about the players that are playing well. But I do want to give a little bit of a disclaimer here before I get into my 6 losers. Just because a player is on this list does not mean that I hate them or that I think they suck or that they're going to have a terrible season or anything along those lines. I'm simply saying that these players, maybe, their standing on the roster maybe declined a little bit based on how things played out during OTAs. And the first guy on my list here is Justin Fields. He came into camp probably hoping to establish himself as a legit competitor to Russell Wilson, and based on what I've seen in the skill work and in the team drills, Justin Fields doesn't hold a candle to Russell Wilson in terms of his control of the offense, in terms of his accuracy. And now the thing about Fields is that he does have splash plays. You can see it during the team periods. He has some awesome downfield throws outside the pocket, and he will deliver those clutch, and well, maybe not clutch, but splash plays down the field. And it's really impressive to watch, and that's not even counting what he can do with his legs. But the accuracy is noticeably less than what Russell Wilson brings to the table. And if you think I'm just making that up, let's take a look at their accuracy numbers from just last season. The on-target percentage, according to Sports Info Solutions, Russell Wilson was at a 77.1. That was 6th in the National Football League. Justin Fields was 71.8 on target percentage. That was 31st in football. And by the way, that was the highest on target percentage of Fields' career. So yes, even though Fields has gotten more accurate every year he's been in the league, it's still 31st in football. That's not good enough, okay? And you can tell that he still has kind of that very elbowy type throwing motion. I've never been the biggest fan of Justin Fields' throwing motion. But don't get me wrong here, folks. I'm glad that he's here. I think he's a good backup quarterback option if Russell Wilson goes down with an injury, if Russell Wilson stinks and you want to see if Justin Fields can be the guy for the future. I'm really glad that the Steelers got him for the price that they did. But don't get it twisted, guys. Russell Wilson is the starting quarterback of this football team, and Justin Fields is the backup, at least for now. Then we'll get to Van Jefferson here. And, he was kind of like that first, wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 type receiver that the Steelers ended up grabbing. Obviously Arthur Smith loves his skill set, but I think I've been underwhelmed by what Van Jefferson has done in practices. With guys like Roman Wilson and Calvin Austin III and Quez Watkins making all these splash plays in the team periods and all these different things. Van Jefferson's just been okay. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Allen Robinson last year when, he's getting first team reps and he just looks okay. He doesn't look like anything special. And I think that's probably something that we can expect from Van Jefferson this year as well as just somebody that's a decent option as a wide receiver. Then another guy, that's still dealing with an injury, but, it doesn't decrease his standing here and what happened in OTAs. Corey Trice Jr., I'm a big fan of his play. He was one of my Sperry psychos last year. I love Corey Trice Jr., okay? I think that his upside is a legit cornerback in this league that can be a starter. But he had that big injury last year, and I think that his time to shine is going to be in training camp, not OTAs. And in OTAs, it was Darius Rush's time. Darius Rush went out there on the outside against the twos and really made some big plays. Corey Trice Jr. still trying to get back from that ACL tear in training camp last year. You can tell he's not 100% back, and, Darius Rush is definitely playing better than him as of right now, but Corey's going to have an opportunity to rise up the depth chart when he's more healthy, when training camp rolls around here, and I'm excited to see him try to do that. Then we get to Luke Barku, who got hurt during OTAs. This was a pretty obvious one. I had to get rid of him in terms of putting him on the reserve list here. So big-time loser there for Luke Barku. Then Josiah Scott, who started OTAs as the starting slot cornerback, getting reps with the ones. Then all of a sudden they bring in Cam Sutton, and Beanie Bishop Jr. is looking really good as well behind Josiah Scott. So I actually wouldn't be surprised if Josiah ends up getting cut from this football team when we get to final team cuts. Then we get to Cole Holcomb, who has, of course, not been on the field because he's still recovering from that gruesome leg injury that he had against the Titans last year. But the fact that Peyton Wilson is looking so damn good and Elandon Roberts still looks like himself and Patrick Queen looks like an all-pro out there, I mean, as long as Peyton Wilson continues to impress and he looks like the star linebacker that he could end up being, that's just going to decrease Cole Holcomb's role more and more and more throughout the entirety of a 2024 season. And, I feel for Cole. I really hope he comes back and he has a great season. But with Peyton Wilson really rising up the ranks here, I think even if he comes back healthy, his role is going to get diminished. Now, that'll be it for today's show, guys. Really do appreciate all of your support. Make sure you click that subscribe button right now. Let me know down there in the comment section who you thought had a really good OTA period here. Somebody you thought maybe underwhelmed a little bit. Let me know down there in the comment section your thoughts. And until next time, here we go, Steelers.